Hello adventurers, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're visiting Rocky Mountain National Park here in Colorado, where today we're going to be taking a wonderful scenic drive down the Trail Ridge Road. I cannot wait to share this side of the Rockies with you, because a lot of times when we think of the traditional Rockies, we think of the side that comes in from Estes Park. However, this side has a very unique beauty to it that I cannot wait to share with you. So I hope that you will enjoy going along for this adventure today and come along and see how the terrain changes from recent wildfires and opens up into blooming, blossoming fields of flowers. This stop is actually called the Harbison Meadow, and in 1895 Annie Harbison and her sister Kitty filed for the first 2 homesteads in the entire valley. Over the next 30 years, their dairy cows grazed this land and in nearby meadows and produced milk for the entire town of Grand Lake, right here in this little humble meadow. Now, at one point in time, there was actually a little homestead here that looked kind of like this. And they have on this sign some of the photos from that time, including this one right here and this one. Now, what else will we find along this road? I am not sure, but I am really eager to find out. It is a beautiful day here in the Rocky Mountains. A little bit of a breeze, so it's going to be absolutely perfect for seeing everything that there is to see. Now, when I first came into the park, they did hand me this. It talks a little bit more about the wildland fire in the national parks, and this explains a little bit more about what is going on around us. Now, it's very important to understand that fire is part of the natural cycle of life in parks like Rocky Mountain National Park. I also picked up one of these when I first came in at the Visitor Center, which is located right here. Whenever you're entering from the Grand Lake side, you actually go through this long Trail Ridge area, and as you go through it, you get all the way over here to where most people come in, which is over closer to Estes Park, either at Beaver Meadow Center or at the Fall River Visitor Center. And so all of this space out here is sometimes overlooked because a lot of people only go to the Bear Lake area. Now, because of the fires, they did have to close some of the areas to do some improvements and some fixing, so to speak. So as we're going along, the things that you're seeing that have the construction, those are mostly closed, and this will be improving in coming seasons. Now, I did talk to one of the rangers, and she said that right now they're doing all that they can to get those areas opened up very quickly. So I just wanted to share that with you so you'd kind of understand the concept of the fire and the true impact that it has had here in Rocky Mountain National Park. But now I think we're going to go for scenic viewpoint after scenic viewpoint and show you all the rest of Trail Ridge Road. Another beautiful pull-off, and at this pull-off we have some information again. Some of the trees that we've been seeing have this weird discoloration on them. It says here that those are caused by the adult mountain pine beetles, and it says here that they can get anywhere between 1/8 and 1/3 of an inch in size. So whenever we're looking at trees and they kind of have a discolored look, this is why. Woo! it's getting pretty windy out here, but it does say that that infestation is actually something that has been occurring for the last 500 years, and you can find it right here in Rocky Mountain National Park. I will also say this, as I've been pulling off to all of these wonderful stops, there are several trailheads that have absolutely amazing trails. I've kind of been giving a little peek. Each one of them has a parking area, a bathroom, and then it has a map to tell you kind of how far you could go on that. So many trails, guys. Wow. Now, this brings us to our next point. It's a little hard to get into Rocky Mountain National Park these days. So being able to dedicate time to those trails is something that you're going to want to do early in the morning. In fact, in order to come to Rocky Mountain National Park currently, you do have to have a reservation. They have time reservations available, and each day at 5 o'clock, they actually release a few additional tickets for the following day. So each month at the beginning of the month, they release all of the month, and then at 5 o'clock each day, they release a few more from what I was seeing. Now, I was fortunate enough to log on yesterday at 5 o'clock and see that they had an 11 o'clock time slot so I could come today. And I drove all the way up from Leadville, so like 2.5 hours, just so I could see this park because it's amazing. I'm going to try to get a secondary time slot, but I don't know if it's going to work out because I'm here on a Friday and weekends go fast. Now, the timed reservation, you can actually print that, you can email it to yourself, or you can do what I did and put it in your Apple Wallet. Now, I will go ahead and show you what this looks like in my wallet. Since it's a one-day only ticket, I have the date that I'm actually approved for and the time slot. There is a QR code that you show them when you come into any of the gates, and it tells which kind of reservation that you have. So, for example, I have the Bear Lake Road corridor and full park access. Now, these reservations do cost $2 in addition to your regular fee, so keep that in mind. Of course, whenever I'm talking about entry, that is your general entry to the park. For example, I have my park pass, so I can come right up, show them that, and then come in. But if you do not have a park pass, there is an actual entry fee to the park. I think it's $25 per car, and you do have to pay that in addition to the $2 booking fee. So if there's any confusion on that, I just wanted to clear that up. Now, it is kind of nice, even though it's a little frustrating trying to get a reservation, because I've been at all of these different pull-offs and there have still been spaces available and a little bit of room. It hasn't felt cluttered like sometimes it can be, and I didn't have to sit in a line at the gate that was like a super long line. Now, before they started doing this, lines into Rocky Mountain National Park would exceed 2 hours. Can you believe it? 2 hours. So this has really been a help with that. Just a little bit more down the road and we get to a historic site. It's about a half a mile down, but they have some buildings and they're supposed to be open from 10 till 4, so let's go check them out. Now, I decided to come down this trail today because it has the historic site, which actually ties back to some of the earliest buildings here in this valley. So I'm super excited to see it because, well, if you've watched my channel very long, you know that I love some history. Parking lot is pretty big over here. Again, there's a bathroom, and at the trailhead over here, there's actually some informational signs. And as we go along, there's going to be some more of them. So this is wonderful. Cannot wait to see these buildings. Now, something that I did notice whenever I was looking at the map a while ago, portions of Trail Ridge Road are only open seasonally. In fact, this part that we're on right here, actually at some point cuts off, like October. So if you don't come earlier in the season to see this, then you miss out on all this amazingness. But they get tons of snow here, guys. the roads get a little crazy, so we definitely wouldn't want to be here after that first snow. No, no, no. The signs say it all. One of the first dude ranches that actually thrived here was in this area right here. It was called the Never Summer Ranch. And it says here in 1917 that German immigrants Sophie and John And it was here in 1917 that German immigrants Sophie and John Holesworth built their home here. After the wartime prohibition closed down their saloon in Denver, they actually were originally ranchers but began hosting friends and family out here at this very site. Now it says here that in this very meadow that we were just looking at, there used to be cabins that people could come and stay in. And then they could do things like fishing and trail riding, stuff like that. Super cool. But by 1975, that actually ended and it became part of Rocky Mountain National Park. So now we're here today to see the beautiful surroundings around us and to think about those times whenever this was just a common dude ranch. Now you might be like me and asking what happened to the buildings. Well, they actually removed the newer buildings, but they preserved the homestead itself so that this could be reclaimed as a natural space like we see it today. So in the name of preservation, that's what they did. But we're about to go back and see those original homesteads. Just passing over the waterway, and then you can start to see the buildings in the distance. It looks like they have green roofs on them, but they're still a little bit ahead, so you're starting to see the farm part of this unfold. Equipment and fences and beautiful views. Man, it sure is pretty here. Just kind of a random tidbit. Do you see this tree? It kind of leans inwards. The wind is blowing it and it is just bending so far over. We're gonna go into this one fast. Here it comes. Ooh, this is the one right there. Yep, that one's definitely swaying in the breeze a little bit much for my liking. Okay, we have made it, and this is the Holesworth Trout Lodge, which was operational between 1920 and 1929. Now here we have an original map, and it says that vacationers would drive wagons and Model T Fords up the rumbling roads of the 20s, and they would actually spend a week or more here. And then each day after fishing, they would stroll into what they called the Mama Cabin, which was the largest building that was left. Here, Sophie actually cooked meals and combined her native German cuisine with Western recipes. Now in the original iteration of this particular area, they actually had several outbuildings, and one of them was actually a taxidermy. Now in the more modern ranch that was here in the later years though, they used these outbuildings more so as overflow. So it wasn't necessarily always a taxidermy. Now let me show you what the family looked like. Now here we see the actual family who ran the ranch, and it's really cool to be able to see a photo that showcases them and their children right next to the map, so we can kind of get a better idea of the layout and then also the people who made this place special. But now that we have a little bit of the backstory, let's go and browse around the buildings. This is going to be so cool, guys, because this place has such a history and is preserved even from its state that it was in before this was Rocky Mountain National Park. So this is really neat. Now outside of this cabin, we actually see something about preserving the history. So you can see some of the original photos and what it might have looked like during its heyday. It says here that it actually needed a lot of repairs. And that's kind of to be expected. It's 101 years old. 101 years old. That is insane. So naturally, whenever they assess the issues, they go in and they fix them. They said that they have already had to go in and fix multiple issues with the roof damages that they've had. So it's really neat to just come out here and see the buildings. Now coming into the cabins on property is a real treat because this is what the guests would have actually stayed in, and being able to see what kind of amenities that they would have had that early on, like in the 1900s, is really neat. It's pretty bare bones, kind of small, but at the same time really, really neat and functional. There's a kitchen, there's like an area that they can stay warm, there's a bed back here, there's a little desk, and there's a little closet to hang their clothes. Of course, at that time there weren't indoor bathrooms, so you have like a chamber pot down here kind of by the bed and it's just kind of neat. Now these cabins are historic, so they do creak a little bit, and something that I've noticed about historic buildings is they were not built for tall people. Like I'm almost to the door, like to the top of it. But all in all, super neat to come out here and get to go through this building. Hi. Now again, looking at this side of the mama cabin, it is really, really, really big. So whenever you come out here and you see this huge cabin in comparison to the smaller ones, it kind of makes sense why that this would be the gathering place. It's a huge building. Now, cool fact, even though we can't go inside right now, Mama actually has a few facts around the cabin as you kind of tour around that you can read. One of which I thought was fascinating considering the height of the buildings. She was only 5 feet tall. So that explains a lot of the smaller things that we're seeing. Okay, this sign actually asks you to ask yourself, what would you do if you had to start all over, and how would you choose to make your living? It goes on to say that ranching at a high altitude had some challenges, and that John Sr. was actually injured in a wagon accident in 1921 and had to do just that, ask himself how he was going to make it happen. He turned to taxidermy. And inside this shop you might find some of the many things that he might have been working with at any given time. In here you have everything from regular saddles, you have hides, you have horns, you have all sorts of different mounts and ways to do so. There's a fire in here to keep warm and then also to work. Wow. Very interesting. And now we are asked to ask ourselves, how do we survive winter? And it goes on to talk a little bit about how winter in the mountains was harsh, super harsh. This structure that we're actually looking at right here is an insulated log structure with a grass roof. It's known as an ice house. And this was actually the refrigerator that this family would use, not only for themselves, but for their guests for years. Now, I'm not saying that they did this, but I'm saying that at some of the places that I've seen that use a similar roof structure, they actually would grow some of their herbs on top of it so they could use them in their cooking also. So I think that that's kind of cool. Again, I don't know that they did that, but the similar kind of roof. So maybe. Okay, so that was a pretty cool look at the homestead up here and some of the outbuildings. There are a few cabins up here that say that they are staff housing, which I think would be super cool. But with that said, we're gonna go back down and get back on our scenic roadway and see what else we can find. Well, that was unexpected. I saw a little construction sign and I just thought some road work was going on, but in fact, they have it down to 1 lane. So be watching for those signs. Definitely be watching. I can see though why, because the side rail over where they're working on has completely been crumbled, which means that somebody probably hit it. So definitely be paying attention. These are like 15-mile-per-hour turns for a reason. Look at this, guys. We actually have a sign that tells us what we can see, and over here we have Lead Mountain, and that's the little pop-up that we're seeing right there. And then Mount Cirrus. Howard Mountain is the biggest one that we're seeing kind of in this area. Then Mount Cumulus is kind of right here under these clouds, kind of fitting. Red Mountain is right here in front of us. Then Mount Nimbus is that little peak in the back. Then Mount Stratus, then the Green Knoll, and then over here is the Grand Ditch area. It says here that this is actually the Never Summer mountain range, and it's the only volcanic piece of Rocky Mountain National Park, so I think that's kind of cool. Also very cool that they named a lot of the different peaks after all the different kinds of clouds. That's kind of fun. Okay, next stop. We're now at the Lake Irene area, and this is a beautiful spot to stop and have like a little picnic. They also have some restrooms here, but let's go see what is in store. It's gorgeous out here. just past this little footbridge. Gorgeous views, so gorgeous. And there is actually a little split, so this is the continuation of our path, but I see that this juts off kind of this way and goes to the opposite side of the water. So depending on how challenging you want to be, you can have a little bit of a challenge. Wow, just wow. It's so serene out here. It's so beautiful. Just wow. On my way back, I was about to cross the little bridge, and there were some little deer that were here. Do you see now why you need to take Trail Ridge Road? There's places like this that you can just literally stop off, walk just a very short distance to, and be amazed. Not to mention the drive in this direction is gorgeous. Okay, adventurers, we have reached the Alpine Visitor Center, and look at this viewpoint. This is amazing. But there's also another visitor center here, and then there's a store and a cafe. But there's something that I'm really eager to go check out. Let's see if we can make it. This sign is the beginning of the hike to the top. Now we are going to be doing basically a little baby incline, and along the way we're going to be able to see several interesting things. At already over 11,000 feet, my lungs are burning. So this could be interesting. We can do it. We can do it. Okay, adventurers, we have made it to this sign, and if you can't tell, I'm pretty much out of breath. This is crazy, this altitude is right now, but we're going to continue to press on. I wanted to show you, though, a little bit about why it's so hard to breathe when you get to higher altitudes. It says here that even though the O2 in the air doesn't change as you go up, it's about 21% of our atmosphere. The air pressure, though, decreases, so it makes it harder for each person to breathe. Add on the wind, and it makes your mouth nice and parched. So it does make it indeed harder. Now, I am from Texas, so my lungs are not used to high altitude whatsoever. Now, depending on where you are from, you may be encountering the same issue. But just know that if at any time you start to feel kind of turn around and go back. Just take a break and go back. Okay, adventurers, the wind is blowing crazy. I got almost to the top and I started to feel a little iffy. So I'm doing what the sign says and I'm gonna go down and hydrate a little bit because that's what we were supposed to do. This was an amazing trip up here. And I've been looking out because they have little pica and things like that that are actually in this tundra area. I haven't seen anything, but really, really cool area. Okay, I am back to the van and I have my water. I don't know why I didn't take it with me in the first place. Definitely I recommend taking some water with you if you're going up the stairs. It is an amazing place to go and have some 360 views of that Alpine tundra and also of just the mountainside and all of the gorgeous Rocky Mountains. But it is a little bit more of an extreme hike. So if you have like a heart condition, don't do that one. Do one of the other ones that we've done today. They're way easier. There are so many gorgeous viewpoints, even right here at the visitor center that you can take in. So this is definitely worth a stop. But believe it or not, we are not even near completion on this particular road. Now, I have been in park since 11 o'clock and it is now 4 o'clock. Wow. Now, with it being 4 o'clock, we have reached the Alpine Visitor Center and we have everything from there all the way over to here to go. Now, there are a couple of points of interest that one of the rangers told me that we would like a little bit more so later in the day, and that's Sheep's Lake and also the Beaver Pond. Those are both areas that around 6:30 you can start to see some of the moose come in and actually graze near the water. They love the water area, so I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that we catch them. I don't know if we will or not, but those are two of the points of interest that are a little bit closer to the Estes Park side, so we're definitely going to try. Okay, remember how we talked about that there's a portion of the Rockies that is volcanic? Well, we are now at the lava cliffs and this is wild. Can you see this? This is amazing. It is so different than the rest of the mountains that we've been seeing. And this is all solidified lava that has come out of the ground. And then over here, there's actually some snow left on the mountains. This area is called the High Life area, and if you look very carefully, you can see some very interesting creatures. For example, right here we have a prairie falcon. We also have an American pipit and a Melissa Arctic. That actually looks really cool. So windy. Wow. The higher up that you get, the colder and more windy that it gets for sure. It's crazy out there. I saw grown men trying to walk up this little hike over here, and as they would kind of go forward, it would push them back again. And then me personally, whenever I was out here trying to photograph this beautiful mountain lake, as soon as I'd pull my camera up, it would just knock me back, and I had to secure myself up against the van to actually get the shots that you just saw. It's a little crazy up here, but it is gorgeous. You can see for miles and miles and miles. And if you look down at the forest below, the trees look like they're so tiny. And then if you kind of recall earlier when we were down at the homestead, we know they're not tiny, they're big trees. So we are way, way up here. In fact, I saw a sign a little ways back saying we are over 2 miles above sea level at this point. So we are up here, but let's keep on going. This pull-off is amazing. You can actually see the roadway below and everything looks like little ants, but more so you can find all sorts of little wildlife here. So I've been staring at some of the little ground squirrels and chipmunks. There are a ton of different kinds of birds here. It's just really a nice place, and it's huge, so there's enough room for a lot of people. Okay, adventurers, I thought what better way for us to wrap up our Trail Ridge Road than a slight detour. At the very end, if you take a left instead of going toward Bear Lake, you can actually get to the alluvial fan. It's gorgeous. It is the best way to wrap up our exciting day that we've had today. I hope you've enjoyed coming along with me and checking out the winding road up through the Rocky Mountains. It is absolutely a once-in-a-lifetime, amazing adventure that you won't want to miss. Till next time, guys. Bye.